it's exciting. I love it. I am addicted to it. I strongly believe that if you use the mono, you're gonna be anyway a better foiler for sure. I this one because your skills are gonna improve.
Hi there, Rudyard Griffiths, co-founder of Triton Foils. Welcome to this, one of our informal rider interviews. What we want to do over the next little period of time is to connect with some of the over 100 people around the world who are now on the Triton T1 monowing. What are they thinking about this wing? What's their experience like? We want to bring a kind of flavor, some context for how monowinging is taking over the world. And want to go first to Los Angeles, California, the United States of America, and Fabio, who was one of the very first people that put up their hand and said, hey, I got to try this thing called monowing. So Fabio, great to be in conversation with you. And thanks again so much for literally taking a wing on the T1 monowing.
So hi to everybody. My name is Fabio. I've been introduced to this wonderful wing by Rudy and Chris. I normally kite in LA and surrounding area. Foil is definitely my go-to. It transforms everything, every session better, right? So it doesn't matter if it's strong wing, light wing, it's always good. I mean, unless it's brutal, then yeah, I would switch to a surfboard. But just picking foiling is my way to go.
So Fabio, what are the conditions that you're dealing with in LA? Is this obviously you're on the Pacific Ocean, so you're getting what, like big weather fronts coming through? Is it kind of variable conditions? Tell us a little bit about what the scene is like there in terms of how you ride and the type of gear that you're on.
We are very lucky in LA. We have a very long season, which is normally between spring all the way to fall. It's dominated by thermal winds that gets sent from the desert. The wind normally comes from the northern side, which is San Francisco area, travel along the coast, go south, and enter, generally speaking, with a southwest direction into the LA area.
Okay. And so like wind speeds, are you, is this like a cabaret style kind of thermal where you're talking higher wind speeds, La Ventana? What's it like?
I would say to the low, from the low to the mid-teens is generally what is a good average in LA.
Okay, so perfect for foiling then. Like this, the foil, as you said, really kind of changed the game for you and other riders in LA in terms of that lower wind speed and being able to get out and have fun.
Absolutely.
Great. Let's move on to what you were riding before you got onto the T1 monowing. What type of gear, what was your kind of style or approach in terms of what you were using on the water?
Yes, during the past few years, I've been actually using quite a bit of equipment. I have always the opportunity to change it. So I would say I started with a very beginning or friendly foil, and I moved little by little to different brands. I used from Duotone to North to Moses, now Subfoil, Lift. I changed quite a bit. I always look for something different, right? Foil is a little bit like a flavorful ice cream. You want to always change and try to find what you like the most. And I was very, very curious about the monowing because I'm like, okay, let me see what flavor it has, right? Let me try.
Yeah.
And I started by curiosity. I normally, just to be very clear, I love to ride strapless. So I don't use any strap on my board, on my foil board. I use fairly small boards. My actual board is a 90 centimeter. My range between 90 and 99, so that 1 meter, which I feel are very, very fun. And you can take full advantage in combination with the monowing of the pocket size.
Yeah. Well, so much of what you're saying resonates with what we're hearing from other riders. One, that people are adventurous. So our riders are people that are kind of looking for a new flavor. To be honest, I think if you're happy mowing the lawn, on whatever foil you have, great. We're really happy for you. But if you want to kind of change up your game, if you want a different feel, if you want, frankly, a bit of a challenge, one of the reasons we created this wing, Fabio, and one of the reasons why I think Chris and I are so excited about it is because I was kind of getting bored foiling. I wrote a French brand called Alpine. Again, they make really beautiful foils, but at a certain point, you're like, "Where's the challenge? Where's the Ferrari?" Like, I'm tired of driving around in the Volkswagen Beetle.
Definitely, definitely. It's the mono is a game changer from that aspect. It's definitely very exciting, and it has a very different feeling. I completely agree with you. It changed what we are used to with a regular setup, right? That is fairly stable, depending on, of course, if you want to do the racing or more the free riding, but it's a very stable platform. The mono is stable, but in a different way. It's exciting. Way. I love it. I am addicted to it.
Yeah, what I kind of like about it is that it demands your attention. When you're riding it, you have to be in connection with the foil. You can't just, park and cruise. And I think what's kind of happened with the industry, I'd be curious your thoughts on this. It's almost like the industry got too good at making, foils that were really good at like parking and cruising, like kind of like houseboats. And I think that's excellent because I think there were a lot of beginners who got into the sport and it was convenient and simple. And it's like, hey, mom, look at me, I'm up riding a foil. But I think you and I share that feeling that, foiling should be about a connection. It should be about a challenge. It should be about, you know, being somehow active, engaged, trying to figure out a really fascinating puzzle in real time.
For sure. For sure. This wing, I would say, is definitely not a beginning wing or beginner wing.
Yeah.
But it's really challenging for the fact, as you say, that it really makes you focus on what you're doing. Yeah. And I've been doing a lot of, I would say, little improvements session after session where I'm back to do all my tricks that I was doing on my regular.
Yeah.
But it's just more fun. It's a different approach.
Yeah, I find tacking on the monowing is just such a blast. Maybe you have that same experience, the way that it just pivots and the way that you can kind of really bank into the tack. You can almost like lie down perpendicular to the water and then just snap the wing around and go off in the new direction.
Yeah, definitely the pivotal turning on really a point, because you can really do it on a spot, is amazing. That one, it's I would say probably one of the first feeling and surprises that you're going to have with the mono, which is some sort of expected without the stabilizer and the fuselage, but it's definitely fun, extremely fun.
What are some of the other characteristics that you've noticed that kind of make it different than a traditional foil? Like, I guess you were a previous Moses rider. Maybe the 633 is a very common, well-known kind of wing. Maybe if you could give viewers a bit of like a comparison of the 633 versus the T1 mono wing.
Yes, so definitely one characteristic that the mono has, and you're going to find or figure it out or feeling it, the big difference is the resistance. This is amazing. It's something that unless you try the mono, you're not going to, of course, expect something like that. So the mono has practically no resistance in the water. So it's extremely light under your feet. And that is probably one of the reasons also why it's so challenging, because you need to change your sensitivity a little bit. You need to become a little bit more precise, right? But so definitely there is going to be the lack of resistance. I did a couple of swap in the water with friends where I'm just like, hey, pick up the mono, just dive. And they passed me their gear. it was weird because I wanted to take, if you do this swap back to back, once that I take a regular foil, you feel almost like you're riding in with something that has sandpaper. Is weird. Is
Yeah.
weird feeling, like almost holding you back from the board. But going back to the Moses, I would say it's fairly similar in terms of like left. The mono, it's definitely, it pops up right away. The big difference is that it's a more balance between your front and your back foot. So of course, depending on where you put your mast on your board and how your board is, but overall, it's a more balanced ride. That one for sure.
Yeah,
So
it's interesting what you're saying about the sandpaper, versus, very clean feel of the mono. I often think of it as like, that expression, finding the signal through the noise. There's something really weird but special about the mono wing. It just has a purity of feeling when you're foiling. There's a cleanness to it. I don't know if I'm describing it properly, but it's so strange to think maybe how that stabilizer at the rear and the fuselage, I don't know, maybe it's causing vibration to come up through the mast, or the front wing is disturbing the water that then flows over the rear stabilizer. But I totally agree with you, Fabio. There's something very clean about that single wing going through the water with nothing else kind of interfering with it.
for sure, for sure. It's just it's really smooth. The ride, absolutely smooth.
Yeah.
And the other part, the mono is definitely more reactive. So yes, the first feeling that I would say everybody will have is how different in terms of like reactive it is.
Yeah.
So it's gonna react to every single input that you're gonna give.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be super quick too, which is something that I was looking for. But it's mental, and I always describe at the beach to whoever asks me about it. I'm like, it's mental, guys. You think of something, is done.
Yeah.
Extremely fast. And the other, I would say, characteristic, which is really amazing, it's the speed range. So you can really take this wing. I don't think I'm exaggerating. I have charts for it, but because I track all my sessions, but I think I can go down to probably 8 to 9 knots of speed, which is barely, like practically walking. The feeling that you're going to have is walking. But I can go extremely fast, over 23 to 25 knots. Yeah. So it's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun enough that it's fast. Now, we're not a big brand, so we don't engage in big brand boasting here. We generally want to have a conversation with our riders to try to make the best possible wing that we can. So Fabio, what do you not like about the wing? Like some people have said, for instance, the fact that it floats, right? That it's got a lot of flotation. So I think people have to be aware that if you fall off your board, if you're in currents or other conditions that make it hard to get back to your board, you're going to have body dragging to get up to this wing. So we want to be honest about this wing. It's, it's not, we think it's really great, but let's face it, it probably has a couple warts. And I'm just curious what some of your feedback in that regard might be.
Definitely, yes. One of the maybe difficulties for some riders could be that, yes, I agree with you 100%. So I tried the monowing in 2 configuration with the standard, that we say, or more standard aluminum mast, and with the carbon fiber Moses mast. In both conditions, yes, for sure, the board and the foil float horizontally, which sometimes if you lose it and you are not ready, you will need to body drag to it. But at this point, if you're foiling, my guess is that 99% should be able to body drag fairly efficiently. So that should be not an issue. What I will change also, well, I would love to see different sizes in the future. I
Mhm.
think is there is an opportunity to have probably a slightly smaller wing,
Yeah.
and probably a bigger wing for light wind. I don't think light wind days for kiting, but definitely for winging could be very good.
Yeah.
Bigger than what it is, because being already in a 1800 centimeter square centimeter is quite a bit, despite the fact that it rides small.
Yeah.
Like, not gonna fail, or you cannot compare to any other 1800 square
No,
centimeter.
that's a good point.
Okay.
It rides more like a 1200 wing. I often say to people, when you look at it and you're going to ride it for the first time, don't select a kite based on it being 1800. Select a kite on it being based like 1000 to 1200 square centimeters, and then you'll probably get your kite sizing right, because you have to realize that wing is having to make up for the absence of the stabilizer, and the stabilizer in a lot of foil setups can be 300-400 square centimeters easily at the back there, the rear stabilizer. We've had to compress that into the engineering, all in the front wing.
Definitely. So it definitely rides smaller
Yeah.
than it is. But definitely it would be interesting to have a slightly smaller size, probably even more fun. Maybe a different geometry, slightly different, to maintain a little bit of stability, but
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Well, we are working on some new designs specifically for winging. So we're excited about the potential for the mono foil design to give wingers, again, in a bigger size format, the opportunity to have that same kind of clean feeling, the same wind range, speed range. And maybe that's my final question for you, Fabio. When you're out in LA, you've got these varying conditions. How are you finding this wing in terms of dealing with different like wind speeds at the low end of the spectrum? Do you prefer it down there? Is there a sweet spot in terms of wind speed that you think this wing really shines in? Can it work at, high wind speeds, when you kite down to a smaller, size kite?
I think that really it's extremely versatile. We took it out in almost every condition, meaning like super light wind days, where of course I normally base just on the kite. I change the kite a lot, so
Okay.
I love to go extremely low in kite size as much as I can. I don't love to have a lot of power. Based also on the kites that I use a 3 struts, which have a little bit more grunt compared to a 1 strut or strutless kites. So I prefer, normally my go-to is a 7 meter, or a 5. But in light, I took the mono in light wind, and is excellent. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
In strong wind is super fun. But I had to be honest and clear, as you say before, I didn't took it over 25 knots, also because, in my opinion, I prefer, personally, as a personal choice, I prefer to surfboard with those.
Yeah, I agree.
You're going to have, in my opinion, more fun.
Yeah. And waves, Fabio, do you what are the conditions like that you have there in LA? Have you been able to ride it in, different types of water conditions? And if so, what's your impression been?
The impression is that it's it has a very good glide. I took it from practically, I would say, knee-high swallow, which is nothing, to almost, I would say, 6 feet. And it was as well, again, I don't recommend personally to go where there are breaks, but the glide is very good. And with a little bit of practice, actually, you can pump it quite a bit, which I was impressed with. I didn't be able to.
Yeah, it is different to pump. You have to kind of, I find, pump faster. It's like CPR or something. You gotta
a little bit on the high frequency, I would say, to be honest again and clear, but yes, you can.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, Fabio, thank you so much for your time. And just to be clear, we don't have a business relationship with you. You don't have one with us. You're just somebody that we really appreciated, who kind of jumped in super early. I think you were like customer number 5 or something. So congratulations just for your pioneering spirit and your willingness to, as you say, go to Baskin and Robbins and look for the 51st, the 52nd, the 53rd flavor to try out when it comes to kiting and kite foiling.
Definitely. Thank you for the opportunity. And I encourage everybody, give it a shot. If you see somebody with it, don't be shy. Ask for a ride because you're going to be surprised, positively surprised. So
Thanks, Fabio. Well, that wraps up our first of hopefully what will be a series of kind of rider interviews with people who have jumped on board for monowinging or giving the T1 monowing a shot. If you're interested in giving it a shot, go to our website, www.tritonfoils.com. There is a tab there at the top of the site, retailers. You can see different stores really now around the world who are starting to stock this wing. You can always reach out to us via the contact page on that site. If you've got any questions, maybe we can find a friendly rider like Fabio in your area that can give you a demo. Get out in the water, switch boards, try this wing. We think you're really going to enjoy it. Well, that's a wrap. We'll talk to you again soon. Be well, be safe. Wishing you lots of wind and lots of great foiling in your future. I'm Rudy Griffiths. Bye-bye.